My dear friends, apparently the gospel reading is very short, but it contains a powerful message about generosity. When we think of the virtue of generosity, we immediately think of people who are donating a good portion of their resources to the church or to a particular charitable institution. We seldom think of the generosity of the poor people. Today, in these first 4 verses of the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 21, Jesus praises a poor widow who made an act of what we call radical generosity. Upon seeing the wealthy people and this poor widow putting their offerings into the treasury, Jesus remarked, "All these people gave their gifts from their surplus wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in all she had to live on." This is truly radical. We can even ask ourselves if we are capable of such kind of generosity, a generosity that hurts. But how can a virtue, which is a positive attitude, hurt? Brothers and sisters, true generosity in the light of the gospel can be painful and can even be costly because it entails the act of surrendering everything to God. It means making an act of total trust in the divine providence. It can also be painful tungod kay nasayod man ta nga kung ikaw muhatag sa tanan o sa imong kaugalingon, pwede nga ang response dili mao ang imong gi-expect. Some can even be ungrateful. Some would not even notice your generosity. And so it's very challenging to be generous in life. Now Jesus is a very good observer. This poor widow, out of her poverty, offered all she had to live on. Is this against right judgment and common sense? No. Deep in her heart, she knew that God would never abandon her. In our own life, isn't it true that we become too insecure and anxious about so many things that we could no longer give our entire selves to the service of the Lord? How do we practice the virtue of generosity? Do we imitate this poor widow? Do we give the best for God and for other people? I can just recall what my former classmate told me, something about donations from different places for those who suffered from the Typhoon Yolanda. According to him, together with a team from the Caritas, they had a hard time sorting out the clothes that they could give to the victims of Typhoon Yolanda because many were giving old barong Tagalog, barongs, wedding gowns, and even used underwear. Dear friends, if we want to be generous, we could not give a trash to people. If we want to be generous, we could not give old or spoiled food to homeless people that can even endanger their lives. True generosity is found in a heart that gives what is best out of love. It is therefore love or charity that prompts us to be truly generous. It is love that challenges us to sacrifice for the good of the other. And this is the generosity that is revealed in the very life of Jesus. He gave to us not a portion of His life, but His entire life. In Philippians chapter 2, verse 7, St. Paul says that Jesus emptied Himself. He emptied Himself by taking the form of a servant. Indeed, the ultimate example of generosity is our Lord Jesus Christ. Hence, as Christians, as disciples of Jesus, we can ask ourselves, how do we concretize this virtue? And as we continue to face this global pandemic, have we been generous to those who are in need? Karon nga pila na kabulan ang milabay, aduna ba kitay natabangan? Sama akong higala nga ningon nga, Father, ang ako ra gyung matunol sa among silingan nga nagkalisod gyud nga kada semana maka paambit kog 3 ka kilo nga bugas Naningkamot sila pero galisod gyud taong kaayo. That's my way of offering something to God. What really matters is not the quantity of our offering, but the quality of our offering. The quality of our generosity that comes from a heart that knows how to love. Generosity, by the way, can also include not just our material resources or money. We can also be generous by giving our time and sharing our talents with those who need us, even if at times we find it inconvenient. I think of parents who are capable of forgetting their hunger just to feed their children. I think of teachers who, even if they are underpaid, would still go the extra mile in educating their students. To end this reflection, I would like to share with you an experience of mine na nakapatandog na ako when I was still a seminarian. During a vocation campaign, I was assigned to go to Compostela, ug dito sa bukiran nga bahin sa Compostela ni adto mig usa ka eskwelahan ug nihapit mig usa ka chapel. Naka-encounter ko usa ka tigulang nga babae nga niduol gid siya namo ug ningon siya, "Brad, dawatan ni ninyong tulo ka nilungag nga itlog gikan sa akong usa ka manok." You were so moved by that nga ningon mi, "Manang ayaw lang siguro imuha na lang na kay okay ra mi na may pagkaon namo sa parokya." Ingon siya nga, "Dawata lang gid ninyo kay mao na akong halad sa Ginoo." Despite her poverty, she is capable of offering something that comes from her heart. And so we can ask ourselves, as disciples of Jesus, have we grown in the virtue of generosity? Do we understand that generosity means surrendering everything to God, trusting in His divine providence, and making an act of love?